I feel like I'm a little bit of Pam's sidekick, also your last keynote, so you're a hype man for the day. I participated yesterday as just like you guys, and I thought it was great, ton of great learning. Before I get started, I do want to give a big shout out to Perry and a round of applause. I've known him for a very long time, and I think this conference is incredible, so thank you, Perry. He's back here. Okay, let's get started. Oh, this is very, whoop. So that's me. Like Pam said, I've worked at Marriott, Under Armour, and Nickelodeon, currently at Weber Shandwick. In my heart of hearts, I am a marketer and a digital marketer. And what that means for me professionally is that I really spend my life, my professional life, in two buckets. One, really curious about the marketing future. I think, when we think about 2030 and how communications will change because of artificial intelligence, data, voice, chatbots, that stuff gets me really excited, and I want to be part of that future. So I spend a lot of time studying the future. The other part is I live in the moment and really think about digital details as it relates to the work we're doing now. I've always felt passionately, especially in digital, that execution really matters. Kind of gets me really aggravated when people don't think about how content should exist inside a platform. Like right now with my team, we're talking so much about vertical. Are you guys talking a lot about vertical? Yes. And stories. We've lived in the one by one for so long, and at this point we have to kind of think vertical first, mobile first. And today, as we talk about the rise of real, I'm very much talking about today. So I want to give you ideas that you can take back to the office tomorrow and implement. If you want to talk about the digital future, I am definitely here all day. I might change my outfit because I'm a little cold, but you can find me roaming the halls. So why are we talking about the rise of real right now? And I think Dennis got at this, but there's obviously some serious stuff going on. In the last 24 months, we've seen Mark Zuckerberg testify in front of Congress. We hear about fake news every day, it seems like. And I think the mental health stuff is definitely on our radar. How many of you guys listen to Pivot, the podcast? Put it on your list. It's a must listen. Every Friday morning it drops. Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway talk about media today. But Scott Galloway, he's a professor at NYU, has this really insightful quote as it relates to health issues. Social media has been described as more addictive than cigarettes and alcohol and is now entrenched in the lives of young people. Impossible to ignore it when talking about mental health issues. So it's a very somber moment, right? Things have changed. It's serious. And the counterculture has arrived. People are going off the grid. When they go on vacation, they say, I'm not going to go on social media. Some people are deleting accounts or talking about deleting accounts. How many of you guys have deleted accounts? How many of you have talked about deleting accounts? I've talked about it. It's kind of scary, right? It's like, I don't know. But the platforms are paying attention to this trend. It's a real trend. So Apple, YouTube, and Google, you see on the screen, are all putting digital wellness programs into place. They're not ignoring the trend. But despite all of this, usage is still high, and we as marketers are not running away from social media. It's super influential. I'm obsessed with this stat. I think it just encapsulates everything. Oh, the stat's not on there. I'm going to tell you the stat. Millennials are saying that they're choosing their vacation based on how Instagrammable it is. So obviously somebody that used to work in the travel industry, I'm like, that changes a lot of things. So it's super influential. We're not running away. We are, at the end of the day, we can still find our audience throughout the marketing funnel on social media. So the question becomes, in this shifting, and I will say very shifty landscape, we must show up as real. And how do we do that? So I'm going to give you 5 ideas, 5 strategies, 5 things I've been thinking about quite a bit over the last year. And I'm going to set this up sort of in a fun way. So I start with a personal truth which I will tell you is a coworker told me. I think he's listening on the live stream. Woo woo. He said these are kind of like confessions. So I start with a confession, and then that leads us to a social spark, give you a few ideas on how to get started, and then we move to the next. So let's see how the first one goes. So it's time for me to cancel my gym membership. I had a baby, my first baby, January 2018. His name is Crosby. He's the best, as all moms think about their babies. 2 days before I went into labor, I went to the gym. I went to yoga that week. I was really feeling it. Since then, it has been 15 months. I have not once, I'm not lying to you, I have not gone to the gym. I have not gone to yoga. I have not worked out. Not at all. Okay, you're like, what is the social spark? Here it is. Oh no! Ah, Carl, save me. So it is time to retire that Twitter handle that you never post on. Or even better, it's time to think about redoing how you have a handle that you post on all the time, but you're not really sure why you post on it anymore. At the end of the day, channel strategy now cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be something that we sort of, a new platform comes online, let's make a handle, let's go there. We need to be very systematic about how we think about our channel strategy. And I'm going to give you a little bit of, how the easy way in on this. So if you think about the fragmented social sphere and you think about where your audience sits inside that social sphere, that's the beginning. And the one caveat here that makes it a little bit more complicated, and I've learned this at Weber Shandwick, because Weber Shandwick was traditionally a PR firm, so much more on the earned side, but has moved into a fully integrated approach. When we talk about audience as marketers, we're often talking about our customers and our users, but also think about employees and shareholders and media. So you map that out. Where are all your audiences spending their time? But you don't have resources for everything. So then you have to think about what do we have resources for? Time, money, management. And through that process, things start to become clear of, okay, where should we be spending our time? Can we, if LinkedIn is all about employees, can we think about moving that to the HR department? Can somebody else work on that editorial calendar, but we come together on a regular basis to cross-collaborate? The last piece of this is, and I know I was very bold with my statement about deleting an account, like canceling your gym membership. It might not be that you delete an account, but you might say, hey, this is only gonna be part of our paid strategy. We're not gonna do editorial day in and day out as it relates to this handle, because it's not where our audience really is. In a nutshell, the power move, is to prioritize. All right, did that go okay? Everybody feeling it? The flow? Okay, number 2. Hugs are the best. Who in this room is a self-proclaimed hugger? Okay, all right, find me later. So I'm a big hugger. Like if I'm coming to see you for the weekend or we're sitting down for a coffee, I definitely this is how the engagement goes. I hug you when I see you, and then there's probably a moment during that coffee chat where I'm like, I think they need a hug, so I give you another hug. And then definitely on the way out, no doubt, as I'm leaving, I'm like, I'm your biggest fan, I love you, and I hug you again. You get a lot of hugs from me. How does this relate to social? Somebody just said that was alarming. You need a hug? So this relates to social because your consistent consumer engagement is, I think, more important than that snackable piece of content that you're going to post at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. So why were we ever excited about social media? It is because we were as marketers, we can have one-to-one conversations with our fans. We can engage with people for the first time. We can find out how they feel about us. And in my experience, I've seen people really push on the editorial strategy and lose focus on that engagement. I have definitely stood here before and said brands need to act like publishers. I believe that. But we also need to carve out space, prioritize, for that consumer engagement. I recently created this framework for a client, and the stuff below the line, it matters. It is the baseline. We have to figure out customer care. We have to work with our teammates on all of that, especially the moderating of trolls and planning for crisis, the what if scenarios. But in all of that, let's not lose the above the line stuff. When fans love us, we should love them back. That's super exciting stuff. And then the next level engagement stuff, I really think artificial intelligence and the machine learning is going to help us with this in the future. We're going to be able to community manage a lot faster and get into conversations where people are not necessarily talking about us, but talking about the industry and what they love. So there's a lot on the horizon that I think can be super positive from a community management standpoint. One other note on this is I think community management is a little bit of a sterile word. So I'd like to today implement that the stuff above the line could be called community love or fan fun. Things that make us, a little bit more excited about getting that job done. In a nutshell, when the fans love them, let's love them back. And just to belabor this point for one moment longer, I love what Sweetgreen does. Sweetgreen is a salad company that was started in DC, has moved to LA. But they do the amazing. They love their fans, and then they turn these, which are usually tweets, into Instagram content, which I love because that's also back to our channel strategy idea. Instagram is hard sometimes. How do you get great visuals for that channel? They found a very creative way to do it with their fans. Okay, confession or truth number 3. Jack Everyday, known in real life as Jack Daly, is my go-to reference when I need one. So Jack was my boss at Nickelodeon, my coworker at Under Armour. I'm kind of trying to get somebody to tweet at him right now, so it's really random, so anybody who wants to do that. He knows me. He knows the kind of work I'm gonna do. He is positive about the work I do. He's a fan of mine. So that leads me to, which I'm sure you guys were anticipating we were gonna talk about. Oh my gosh. Influencers. So influencers are on the rise. Google Trends reported that the search term increased 325% in 2017. 8 in 10 marketers say they have budget for influencer marketing this year, and by 2020, it'll be a $10 billion industry. But we've also heard all of the bad news. Unilever and P&G are super frustrated with the industry and calling that they might kind of run away from it. We've also seen, I think this is the best example of 2018. Listerine did a partnership with Scarlett London, and the internet called it out. I mean, who sits on their bed like that? Who puts balloons next to their nightstands like that? And then very carefully puts their Listerine bottle at their bedside. I mean, the internet told us exactly what was wrong with this. It is not authentic. It is the opposite of a referral. It is not trusted. It is not wonderful. It is not a fan. It was a mess. So I'm making a very bold statement on the next slide. I'm gonna roll it back just a little bit. But forget influencers. Maybe we reframe that and say, hey, let's not focus on the SpawnCon that is all over Instagram, but let's think about why we love influencers. They are referrals. They are our fans. So employees can be influencers, nano influencers. We're going to see them on the rise. And why are we going to see them on the rise? It's because those are people who love things, who maybe have fewer followers, but can really talk authentically about the brand. Let's get excited about that. That's why we love influencers. That's where I think that the industry is headed, and I think that's where we can be real on social instead of kind of going down the rabbit hole of how many followers do you have before I decide if you can be my influencer. In a nutshell, this is a quote by me, influencer marketing can be so much more than bad banner ads. All right, we are moving on to number 4. So I told you guys I quit the gym, but I am a hardcore walker. At Under Armour, obviously, worked out all the time. But I learned a lot about the walking community through MyFitnessPal, and I never knew it. But after I had a baby, I was like, well, I'm gonna slow down. So I walk to work every day. Sometimes I walk home. Crosby and I are on the move every Saturday morning, just walking. So I've slowed down. Places that I used to jog, I will now walk. Which leads us to, oh my gosh, Carl. We're okay. Oh, thank you, yes. Slow media. How many of you guys have heard the term slow media? Okay, I guarantee that you have interacted with slow media. Slow media is the new term for email newsletters, the OG of slow media, which are having a moment. Podcasts. I would say the platform medium is slow media that is on the rise. I thought you were waving at me, Kevin. And the last thing, LinkedIn. A lot of people have said this to me at this conference, and we're talking a lot about it at work. You know, LinkedIn is always that social media handle that hangs out on it's like a side column where you're like, oh yeah, we'll also post that on LinkedIn. If you put LinkedIn in the slow media category, it becomes much more interesting. So that's what slow media is. And why is it having a moment right now? It's because the scroll is overwhelming. And people want to slow down, they want to go deep, they want to hear about a topic in depth. I mean, The Daily is a great example of this. I listen to it every morning. So how are brands supposed to think about slow media? I think of slow media as a halo to your social media strategy. If people are wanting to go deeper on topics, the same thing is true for brands. They want to, when they're interested in a brand, they want to go deeper. They want to find out, what is your social impact practice? What is your corporate responsibility? Okay, let me hear from a couple of experts inside the organization. So, if you think about your opportunity inside slow media, is there are stories that definitely should be told, but maybe social isn't the exact right place. And being able to give more space for that story to be told, and maybe it's more evergreen in nature, allows for consumers to go deep on certain topics. And one thing, I am not telling everybody to run out and start a podcast. This is where paid, owned, and earned becomes very important, because perhaps the strategy is, let's round up 10 experts inside our company who would be great on podcasts, and then talk to our PR team about how we pitch those people to these different podcasts across the industry. So everybody do not run out and start podcasts. In a nutshell, don't let the scroll squash the stories and point of views that should be told. Last up, and I know you're sad to see me go, we rearranged all the furniture. So before Crosby was born, I did what I think a lot of people do. Obviously, we turned our second bedroom into a nursery. We live in about 900 square feet. But I also got really intent about the living room. I was like, well, we're gonna spend all of our time in the living room. We have to think about, well, what will the baby do in the living room? I took all the books off the bookshelf. I dusted everything, and I didn't put every book back. I said, we're taking some of these to Goodwill. We don't need all of these books. I made my husband sell our couch. We bought a smaller couch. I was a big planner. And that leads us to, which is really a wrapper for this entire presentation, the days of we'll figure it out as we go are gone. At this point with social media, we need to think about why do we exist and how does that relate to our larger business goals. And we need to work with our cross-functional partners to figure that out. And this sounds really tactical, but I think it works. Where do you start? You create the flexible playbook to be your guide. And when I say playbook, I mean a Google Doc or another shared document that you probably never print because it's going to change probably on a monthly or quarterly basis. And you definitely don't bind it or turn it into a book. It is literally a breathing document that helps you put your strategy down on paper. It'll answer things like, what is our voice and tone on social media? I've been a huge advocate of a page in these playbooks recently. What's your emoji strategy? Do you use emojis? Do you not use them? What's your hashtag strategy? When we think about measurement, what is our KPI as it relates to organic editorial content? When it's a campaign, how do we think about that differently? There's just a ton of information that we can get down on paper that helps to be the North Star for the work we're doing. And I think when we think about brands, my coworker Obella was talking about Wendy's yesterday. They're amazing. Shout out to Obella too. I think she's here somewhere. She was talking about Wendy's yesterday, and I think, sometimes we're all in awe of Wendy's, but I guarantee you, or I hope with all my heart, that Wendy's has an internal playbook that when those moments happen where they want to be clever on social media, the reason they're good at it, or the reason brands are good at it, is because they have a plan, they have a framework, they have a decision tree that helps them say, hey, should we engage in this or not? And at this point, it's not the Wild West anymore, and we have to get this stuff down on paper so we can operate in a way that's fun, but also strategic. And my nutshell on this one, so if your playbook is just full of old school marketing speak like build, sustain, engage, don't even do it. Don't include that kind of stuff. Get down to the nitty-gritty of what needs to be in that playbook to make it really useful. I'm very passionate about this. All right, so that's it. Those are my tips. And in 2019, even though the platforms, there's a ton going on of them that is super serious and calls privacy and security into question, I think we can show up as real. Prioritize channels, love the fans, lean into your ambassadors, fire up your slow media, and refresh the playbook. Thank you.